What's our connection? Welcome back to this No Holds Barred special edition. What if video only series? Aaron JT, your co-host on No Holds Barred, drops every Saturday here on North South Connection. That's audio and video simulcast. Twice a month, we're going through every WWE World Title change in history. We were in 1999 in that project. And then every other week, besides that, we're doing drafts with our friends. So that's every Saturday, 11 a.m. on the North South Connection. If you are watching on YouTube and you're new, welcome in. Subscribe while you're here because we have all kinds of cool video content dropping pretty much every day, Aaron.
Yeah, and from a variety of different people. So, like, if you hate us, there's someone else you probably will like on the network.
Maybe. I don't know. We're all kind of the same.
That's true. You'll probably hate everything.
Yeah.
This is a great way to start. Yeah, fuck! So, look, we are inspired. Ever pulled off. We're inspired, obviously, by the Marvel Comics What If. What if this is happening?
Is that what this is about?
Well, that's how it started. That was the big what if, was back in the day. They'd released the comics. What if Peter Parker married Gwen Stacy or the Black Cat or the Black Panther? I don't think they did that one, but that would have been a good one.
They're not that woke.
Yeah, I don't think you've read Marvel lately. But yeah, so we've done a few of these so far, a lot of fun ideas, and we reached out to our buddy Marcus. And by the way, if you like this series at all, send us ideas in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
If you send us ideas, we will definitely use them.
We will use them. And Marcus is my co-host on Dirty War.
That's right.
That's like the nerdiest podcast we have here. It's every other Thursday. We're watching every pay-per-view in WWE history and then doing this big plus-minus sabermetric style ranking of them all. So,
and while I don't do a show with Marcus, he is my friend.
So you think?
Maybe not. What?
I don't want you to have to bore that responsibility. We're okay. All right. So we reached out to Marcus. We asked him to send us they're wrapped in envelopes. What if topics? We haven't looked at them yet. We're going to debut them here. So we do one every episode. We talk for about 15, 20 minutes, and then we go home. All right. So our next one from Marcus that I'm going to pick is what if Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, was not injured in 2014 for his title reign?
Well, I think the sad part about this is this, to me, this is like, this time period is the biggest piece of evidence that the WWE will do anything not to be creative, right? Because when Daniel Bryan gets hurt in 2014, all they do is slide John Cena into his position.
Right.
And suddenly now the Authority is mad that John Cena is the champion.
Right.
Like, and he doesn't, despite the fact that he's been pushed for like 10 years as the guy. Now suddenly he's like persona non grata, right?
Right.
And they didn't, like, it's crazy because if you're going to do that, at least say your time has passed, you're old. But they don't do that. They just now John Cena is the B+ player, right? And like, so I think we get exactly what we got. We lose the Money in the Bank where Cena wins the title.
Yep.
But I think Bryan goes to SummerSlam, gets
killed by Brock. Yeah.
And then he's gone. Like and then whether he's hurt or not, he's in the Intercontinental title the next year.
Yeah. I think I mean, as we know, he was never the pick for Mania. No. It was supposed to be Batista. I think they were looking at Bryan, and it's fitting because this is kind of where we've been in No Holds Barred on the title changes. He was to be the Mick Foley from 98, 99, right? The guy that kind of ate up Orton's time, ate up the corporation's time as like the B guy to Batista for the winter. Kind of get in the mix, do the thing with the title, whatever they were going to do. That was meant to be what he was, and they were going to use him to eat up time until Batista won the Rumble, and then ramp up to Batista Orton at Mania, and Batista wins the title and becomes the guy for a bit. I'm curious if Batista gets killed by Brock at SummerSlam. Like,
that's the what if? Is what if they just go with Batista?
Right.
Like that's not the what if. It's a what if, but
Mania 30 is probably a lot less beloved. I mean, because if you lose does Bryan still face Triple H? Maybe you just still do that as the opener, but
well, wasn't there talk about him? I remember during this period, every year Bryan was fighting Sheamus.
Yeah, that was the rumored match. Yeah, him and Sheamus was the rumored match. Yeah,
and whatever they do, their matches are always good, so it's fine. But in 2014 we were done, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I never wanted him to be in the world title picture. I mean, we kind of got the tease at SummerSlam. He's got the classic with Cena, and then gets hosed.
He beats him clean.
Yeah, and that was the natural build, was to him to get it back from Orton at Mania, but they just didn't see him in that role to close out Mania. He forced the hand. They listened, and then of course he got hurt. But you can already see it. Like the next month, he's fighting Kane.
Not even in the main event. Like, and he gets the same title reign as Benoit.
Right.
He's
That was going to be the map for sure, and then lose
Yeah.
to SummerSlam, and then just be an upper mid carder. That's kind of a guy you could elevate as needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they saw him as more than that.
Do you think? I know. I was going to say, do you think he leaves at any point because of that? But he didn't.
Where's he going to go? There's nowhere to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he could go to Japan. There's a lot of different things he could do, right?
I guess. No. I don't. He was, because in this world he's probably still marrying Brie Bella, right?
Yeah.
He's still kind of a made guy. They just have different levels of made guys, right? They have a lot of made guys in that stretch that are lifers that aren't world title guys. We see with like Kevin Owens now. He ended up getting main event level pushes after, but
yeah.
Even I'm trying to think who to compare him to.
Well,
like a Benoit. I mean, before that,
Foley.
like a guy that was just Foley, like just made dudes that were always going to have a spot. They just didn't see them as carrying the promotion. So like, I think Bryan was always going to be protected, and I think if you watch that stretch, like he does get a lot of stuff. It's just we wanted him to be the guy, and I think there's a lot of, not to keep evoking Benoit, but like there's a lot of comparisons to that when you go back and rewatch that era.
Yeah.
Like Benoit still had a ton of wins, a lot of main event matches. It's like people just wanted him to win the big one and be the guy.
Well,
and I think with Bryan, similar. Like
yeah.
the dude there were stretches of TV where he was wrestling 3 matches. He was on an hour of Raw a week. Like he was the workhorse. He got a ton of spotlight. They just saw him differently as a top guy.
Right, but that was when he was when they were doing that, they were putting him up to that level, right? I think the fear is, and I think it's a valid fear, is that if you're not put in like that level or somewhere near that level, you just don't get any time, right? And like maybe he would have gotten some time here and there, but like if he's not a main eventer, then he's not getting that much time on Raw. They're just not good at that anymore. They used to be really good at it with like giving the mid card a lot of time in with their matches and whatnot. But here, if you're not the top guy, and that's the complaint, that's the big. I've heard people bitch at times that like, oh, people are unhappy unless their guy is champion, right? But it's not that he has to be champion. It's that if they don't give him the title, they don't give him any time, right? Or they don't. I mean, they'll give him some, but they don't give him the time that he could use to build this incredible career. Perfect example. I don't know if there's a more talented guy in the roster, maybe in the world, than Ricochet, right? Like, there's no reason with all the TV time they have, with all the pay-per-views and everything they have, that guy doesn't get 15 minutes a week just to do whatever the fuck he wants, right?
Yeah.
But it's because he's not a main eventer, right? Because they don't value like a tier system where, hey, we're working up to the Intercontinental title.
I think they do a little bit more now, like in the Triple H era. Like I do think there's a little more focus on the non-main event stuff, but it's not like it used to be. But
yeah, but definitely in 2014 it wasn't there.
No, not at all.
Yeah, like I would agree.
What if Punk stays? If like, what if he doesn't quit at the Rumble? He still has his issues, blah blah blah, but he's around when the Bryan gets hurt. Like he's there to fill the void, or do you think
slid in? He just gets slid in, and then what'll be interesting with that is how angry he gets with the Brock match,
right?
Because
but does he feel he owes him for the week? Well, I guess Brock beat him the year before, but
that's it.
Yeah.
And at that point, like a 2014 CM Punk title reign feels pretty stale.
Yeah. So you think he's cooked either way?
I think so. They needed to do something different to build him up. I think Punk got caught in 2013 in that weird, it's like apparent personal feud with Heyman, but it never felt personal because he's fighting Curtis Axel, he's fighting Ryback,
Yeah. His 13 mirror, like if you look at him as a comp for Brett, which I think most do, Like his 13 is like Brett's 95, right? Like so, and his 14
Right.
is like Brett's 96 up until WrestleMania 12, right? He's like fed up, he's kind of done, got wasted the year before, needs a break. He's been going nonstop for 8 years. Like
Yeah.
it felt very similar. He just doesn't have that comeback and big heel run that Brett would have in '97. But it's
Yeah.
similar to me. Like he was just burned out. I mean, I think it feels like Punk wasn't there as long as he was, but he's on TV for 8 years, and I don't think he's ever hurt, takes any breaks during that time.
No, and when you watch those pay-per-views back, I can't speak to all the television, but when you watch those pay-per-views back, he's on all of them. He's on
Mm-hmm.
them a lot, and he's the example that proves my rule. Like they usually give him time.
Yeah.
Like they liked him. They liked CM Punk. Like this whole it's fairly weird. This whole narrative with him of like
Mm-hmm.
I was never supposed to be here and this and that. Maybe, but that's not the way they booked you, right? Like
That's kind of where I was going before when I said like there are dudes that I think a lot of fans look back at the narrative and think, oh, they were misused or wasted or not used right. But I'm like, I don't think Punk is that guy. Like, I don't think you can
no,
look back at his career and say he wasn't given chances. I mean, the dude had that huge world title run. Yeah, there were shows where he should have main evented. He didn't, Cena,
yeah.
Laurinaitis, and this and that. But he also had a lot of big time main events. The one thing he didn't get was the Mania main event, which is fair.
And I get, it's like from his perspective, right? He's really talking about 2013, I think,
Yeah.
more than 2012.
Mm-hmm.
But the 2013 one, it's like from his perspective of like, he's the champion, whatever, and to have someone come in and swoop it away.
Yeah.
Not only that, based after he's worked 8 years,
Right.
like nonstop.
Yeah.
Right. To have someone come in at the last minute and sweep it away, I'm sure that was the breaking point because
And it happens more than you think, and I think that's what doing Dirty War has been cool because Marcus had to do a seasonal format, so we go from post Mania one year to the next Mania, and I believe that's what already books their years, right? That's why I wanted to do it that way. Like I believe they start mapping toward Mania in the fall, and usually it's Survivor Series. They give a little tease, and then it starts to go. Like I don't think in January they just start for that year. Like Mania to me is the end of their year. And it is crazy though how many guys have dominant summers and into the fall that end up being completely forgotten by Mania. I'm like, I think Austin and Angle in 01, 02 is like a huge example. Like they are amazing in 01 and
yeah,
they're afterthoughts at WrestleMania 18. And like you see it in 11 to 12. There were guys like Zack Ryder and others like that are awesome in 11, like in the fall of 11 or whatever, that by Mania are like complete afterthoughts.
12 to 13 has a huge one. It's Ryback.
Yeah.
Like there's a world in which 13 is main evented by Punk getting dethroned by Ryback.
Right.
And I know now that seems insane, but if you go back and watch I forget which one it is now, but the February pay-per-view, I don't remember if it was Elimination Chamber or not yet, or if it passed, but the February pay-per-view 2013, Ryback's in a match. He's teaming with Sheamus and I think Cena, or Sheamus and Orton. It's one of those combinations. And he is far and away the most over.
Yeah.
Like the whole crowd is chanting for him. So I'm not going to advocate that they should have strapped the rocket to him, but I don't think it's insane. Like now we think it's insane because Ryback's insane, right?
Yeah.
But at the
No, at the
time,
time he was super over, yeah.
yeah, and I mean, because you could have done Cena Rock 2 with it didn't need a title.
Right.
Like it was pointless.
Or you just do Cena Punk, which should have probably been the match.
Yeah.
And you could put Rock with Brock,
Yeah.
save us from the Triple H stroke fest, right? And just do Brock beats Rock again, like there.
Or do Rock Punk if you really want it. Like
Yeah.
you want him in the main event, have Rock come back, win the Rumble, and main event.
Yeah. I think I hate to ever say we don't need Rock content,
We don't need it.
but I think that's one stretch where they didn't really need him. Like, I don't think that Mania changes much. I get you lose Taker Punk, which is awesome, but I think you could do Cena Punk, which was that should have been the match. That was the build
Raw
for the
match.
whole year.
The Raw match
is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And they never had a bad match one-on-one.
And Cena can win. Just that could be the dethroning of the record reign. Cena beats him in the main event.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Ryback gets a Taker match. Like Taker wins it, but Ryback gives him a fight and loses in the end or something. But
or Ryback Brock.
Yeah, or that. I'm just trying to think of who
Triple H.
Taker could have fought.
at that point, 2013.
Sheamus.
Yeah, that would have been a good. I think Taker Sheamus is one of those kind of interesting matches they never did.
Yeah.
But Sheamus is always in that mode where he's like not viewed at that level.
Right.
Right.
I think you could have also done Bryan instead of Team Hell No.
Oh yeah.
Bryan Taker could have been cool.
Yeah.
That's probably the closest to maybe you get something with Punk. Like Punk Taker, you do Bryan Taker. Yeah, there's definitely options. I think WrestleMania 29 is a big what if one.
Yeah, you could also do if you wanted, do Brian Del Rio. That probably would have been really good.
Yeah.
Del Rio's like, I mean,
yeah, Swagger's so. I mean, he's blah.
I mean, Del Rio's like clearly a piece of shit as a person, but he was fucking good at the time.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so you could tell how quickly we veered off Bryan,
but
I think we agree that not
way.
much changes. Yeah, not much changes.
Yeah.
I think the more interesting is what goes on around it. Like we said, is Punk. If he's not as angry, does he stick around and then he fills in? But
yeah,
it seems like Brock winning the belt at SummerSlam was the path, no matter what. So like Bryan.
I think the funny thing is if I wonder if Bryan doesn't get hurt and he just has that year until Brock, is the backlash as strong against Roman Reigns the next year?
No, I doubt it.
Yeah.
I think the backlash against Reigns isn't as bad if Bryan's just not in that Rumble match. I will go to my fucking grave on that one. Like I said it at the time, and I'll say it now. They could have fudged his injury and just said he's not going to be ready for the Rumble. He'll be back in February. Like there were ways around it instead of putting him in there and not having him win. Like
and putting if he's him in the match after 5 minutes.
Yeah. Like just have him not be in it. Just say he's not ready.
Yeah.
And no one would have even said anything. They would be like, "Oh, okay, he's not ready. It sucks." But
have the return at WrestleMania.
Yeah. Like, and then Reigns is not nearly as. I mean, his whole run may be different.
You know what could happen. That's another one that if Bryan doesn't win that title, maybe they might hotshot Reigns in 2014.
Yeah.
Because they tried. I mean, like that was the whole problem with that is that like when the Shield breaks up, Rollins and Ambrose go to the Money in the Bank, and Reigns goes to the title Money in the Bank, but for no reason. Like they were all on the same level, and then one went up and two went down without any sort of.
And I liked it at the time because I think conventional wisdom was that Ambrose was going to be the one to turn because everyone saw him as like the crazy guy, like Piper or whatever. And I liked it at the time that they didn't go with him because I think he had such a unique connection with the crowd that him as a face was actually awesome and like he was over. Yeah. I think looking back, gun to the head, I think Ambrose should have probably been the one to turn and you just have Rollins be like the high flying super over babyface. I don't know what else changes, but they always wanted Reigns to be the guy. I think.
Yeah.
I think he just needed that little extra time. Like he's in the IC title picture, beats Orton at SummerSlam. He's getting over. They could have had him just be in the US title match.
That's it. I've laid this out forever. Is that like you flip Cena, Bryan, and Reigns, and it's a completely different world.
Right.
Like you just have Bryan, Luke, and Brock as the main event. Rollins can still do the cash in. You put Cena in the ladder match, and you have Reigns and Rusev's undefeated streak.
Yeah.
And like I think because Reigns is one of the few guys that I remember that didn't do the progression to the title.
Right.
Like, I mean, like you got the big, like Hogan wasn't the Intercontinental Champion, you know what I mean? But like almost everyone else was. The Ultimate Warrior was the Intercontinental Champion first, right?
No, they teased. I think they did it. That it's hot. They went through it fast, like because he was in that picture at SummerSlam, right, when he fights with Orton and all that. But I think the U.S. title for that first year, it's the same thing as like JBL, like in 04. Like I mean, they rushed through him, and he doesn't get over till he's into the run 8 months, and then by then it's like over when he finally figures it out.
But there's a big difference between doing that with a heel and doing that with the person you want to be the centerpiece of your promotion.
Yeah, they should have slow burned it more. They could have coordinated him at 16 for the first time and probably been a little bit better.
In a short match.
Yeah, and just have Brock dominate Bryan at Mania if you really don't want Bryan to be the guy. But that could have been an interesting what if too, and not if Bryan gets hurt in 14. What if he does get hurt in 14, comes back at 15, and then doesn't get hurt again? What if he just stays then? So he still gets the abbreviated title the moment. He still gets, Mania 30, gets hurt, comes back, but he's good after that. Like,
So is he still winning the Intercontinental at?
yeah, and then he just doesn't get hurt. He just goes from there. Like,
Well, I think you get what they wanted, because I remember at the time, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like coming out of that show, Cena and Bryan are the secondary champions.
yeah.
And I remember hearing rumors like, oh, they're going to start pushing these belts. It's actually important.
Well, because Brock was going to be, I mean, I guess Rollins ends up being the champion, but
Yeah.
Brock was going to not really be around, and yeah, Rollins at that. But yes, they were going to make those spotlighted. That was what the story was, spotlighted on TV. So I think Bryan was going to do what Cena was doing with the open challenges and long matches every week and elevating the US or the IC title. So that was definitely the plan. So I think you end up maybe with just a bunch of better matches throughout 15.
Yeah. And I think Bryan probably really helps WrestleMania 32.
Yeah.
In some way, like they fit him in somewhere that like makes more sense than something they did.
Right.
Then again, based on the card structure, he might just be in a multi-man tag, right? So
yeah, we don't need to rebook WrestleMania 32 again. I think Marcus and I covered that pretty thoroughly on War. So, all right, this is a lot of fun. We'll be back with these what ifs just kind of randomly, but we are here every Saturday for No Holds Barred, every other day as well. So subscribe, and you get tons of cool, quick hit video content here on the North South Connection. Leave us a comment, leave us a topic suggestion. We'll definitely get to it. We love you. We appreciate you. We're out. Goodbye.
Chuck us.